flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now move on to silent reflection for law enforcement officers. All right, thank you. Please have a seat. Roll call.
Karlovic.
Here.
Kramer. Reichner.
Yeah.
Reese. Heister.
Now we're going to open it up for DCB members to approach.
Thank you, Mayor. My name is Jim Rose, and I am from the Governor's Center for Local Government Services, which is a part of DCED. We met with the mayor and council member and solicitor earlier this month, I think, and we talked about a program we have that we think would be helpful to the city called the Early Intervention Program, which is the worst name anyone could give it, because it implies things that aren't necessarily a truth. But it's a program that is designed to help communities to determine where they are financially and then help them to plan a course for 5 years down the road that will allow them to be in good shape financially. Now, I know that the city has had one of those in the past, and it didn't go so well. I want to let you know that our program has changed drastically and for the better since you last had an EIP. The EIP program allows us to provide you with a matching grant. In your case, it would probably be a 75% us, 25% you matching grant to hire a consultant from a list of consultants that do this kind of work, and then have them come in and they would take a look at your finances, take a look at your government, take a look at your departments, and try to help you put together a plan. They would make a series of recommendations. We've done this in a lot of different communities, and it's been very helpful to those communities. We have please don't confuse this with Shamokin's plan, which is Act 47, which is something entirely different. Act 47 means that we come in, the department comes in, and we provide a consultant who will direct certain things to take place in the city. The EIP is not that. The EIP is strictly to give you information that will be helpful to you. We think that it would probably cost, your population is 96, just under 10. We think that the whole thing would probably be about $70,000. So your payment would be for 75% of that, unless, once we got started, we found out that the city was in a dire financial situation, and then at that point, we could move the match if the city needed us to do so. It's a program that would start pretty quickly. Once you're approved for the program, you would be able to start to look for a consultant, send out RFPs, do some interviews, hire whoever you want to hire, and then they would start, they would have the bulk of the work wrapped up within, say, 6 to 9 months at the most. And then the program actually lasts for 3 years, so that you wouldn't have to pay your match until the second year or the third year, if that was what the city could afford to do. That's the program in a nutshell. Do you have any questions?
You said 75-25, now is the obligation, the 75% obligation is to cities,
No.
the states?
Ours.
So that's 75,000. Our obligation would be somewhere around 15?
70,000 we think it would be, and 70, I'm not good at doing that in my head. So 50 would be,
17.
that's probably close, yes. And again, that wouldn't have to be paid in the first year, certainly not in this budget, or not even in next year's budget. No? The way it would work then is if, after discussion, you're interested in the early intervention program, you would just need to have a formal act by council authorizing the city to apply for the program. The application is easy, it's an online, and I know Terry, from what I hear, Bob over in Shamokin has told me wonderful things about you. So I know you know how to do that very well. And I would provide you with some information to tell you what are some good things to include in that if that's what you chose to do. And then the program works really well. You would just have invoices to submit, so the the consultants would be working for you, for the city. But whenever they billed you, you would pass the invoices to me, and then we would bill you, and we're really quick on this, believe it or not. It's one of the good things that the state does. And the best part of this program is that there really aren't any strings attached. We're not looking to come in and take over Sunbury, God forbid. I don't need that on my plate. You guys are doing well here. But we're looking just to provide whatever kind of assistance that we can. All right?
I think one thing we're gonna look at, Kevin, I think next month we start doing our budget for.
Yeah, I did, Rob, I passed out tonight, so you guys should have your folder there. As of today.
That's gonna be critical where we're at in November, so.
Right, and that would be part of one of the things that the consultants would be able to help you with for next year, obviously. Well, it might not be too late this year, but certainly for next year, if you wanted some assistance in coming up with your budget, putting it together, that's something that.
I know Kevin's already been working on it for months, so he has his numbers together, so. And what has happened to us this year is kind of unique, so.
It is. We're concerned though, before we came down, Andrew, who we met,
Yes.
Andrew, who's my manager, looked at some of the numbers and he said that the city, he thought, would benefit from the EIP, and that's the only reason that we're pitching it. Even though that this big legal bill is probably a one-shot deal, so we hope so for your sake. I know also that he has some concerns about where you sit financially, and he thought that the EIP might be able to help you plan a good way to avoid any problems in the next couple of years.
When we were meeting with you before, you were talking about like $200,000 up to, for like grants or something?
I was talking about the EIP, the EIP program can have multiple phases. So in the first phase, if the consultant that you hire identifies some areas that the city might want to make some improvements to or might want to make some changes to. Like, for example, I have a borough over in Schuylkill County that is looking at getting all new computers for its employees because they still use Windows 95, if you can imagine that. And they're getting new computers, they're getting new software, they're getting a server, and they're also getting like a security window. That's an unusual thing. We have another few communities that are having HR consultants come in to take a look at the job descriptions and take a look at some of the personnel policies and make, if the city wants to do that, to make tweaks to those. Or we have lots of different things that can happen in different phases of the EIP. So the split would remain the same. It would always be, the grant would always be whatever it is that you end up with, which will at least be a 75-25. But it's something that can go on and on and on. And we have, I have a city right now that just applied for EIP Phase 4. There's a city outside of Philadelphia, it might be a township outside of Philadelphia that's on 6. You can have lots of different phases. This program is really flexible, it's funded well, and it's something that a lot of municipal governments have found very helpful. Does that answer? Yeah. Okay. All right? Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming
It was good being here again. Let me know too if you decide, well, whichever way you decide, if you could just let me know if you're going to apply, if you're not going to apply. All right? All right. Thank you all very much.
Excuse me, was he invited, Regina Russell, was this gentleman invited to come to our city council meeting and present this to us?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And you're welcome to stay or at least now we're going to close the meeting for the public hearing for City College.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Hi, I'm Linda Sterling from CEDACOG, and I'm just arranging my papers because I had taken over the podium early. I'm here tonight to have a first public hearing for a competitive CDBG application for the Reagan Street Flood Mitigation Project. We're planning to put in a $1 million competitive application. There's no guarantee that that's the amount of money that will be funded, but we are allowed to ask for that much, so I'm asking for the most as we possibly can. The City of Sunbury will apply for up to $1 million in competitive community development block grant funds. There's no guarantee that that's the amount that will be given if the application is successful. Funds for community development block grants come from the federal government through the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development to the Department of Community and Economic Development, that's DCED, in Pennsylvania. Every year, the City of Sunbury and many other municipalities across the state receive something called entitlement funds. Those are funds that are set aside for those municipalities, Sunbury is one of them, every year. This year you got $240,000 through your entitlement CDBG program. An additional portion of CDBG, 30% of the money that comes from the federal government, is set aside for something called competitive grants. Those grants are by competition only for more serious, larger problems that communities cannot afford, and they must exhibit a serious problem to health and safety as well as demonstrated public support to receive top priority for funding. So the project overview for the Reagan Street Flood Mitigation Project. Jeff Lewis from Flood Control forwarded a picture to me of Reagan Street underpass flooding in 1940. So Reagan Street has been flooding for a very long time. When Sunbury receives rain at a rate in excess of 1 inch in 2 hours, which is really not a lot, the existing 15-inch combined storm water sewer line that runs from 4th Street to Front Street becomes inundated with storm water and backs up into the storm drains and floods the Reagan Street underpass. Flooding creates delays in emergency response, dangerous driving conditions, and sanitary hazards. In time of deep flooding, driving safety is a concern. The solution to this problem, and this is what the project would fund, would be replacing that north 15-inch line with a new 48-inch line that will become the new storm line from Front to Fourth. Currently, stormwater and gray water, wastewater are traveling in that 15-inch line. That's too small for what needs to be. So there will also be an additional sewer line run, so that there will be 2 lines now. A 48-inch storm line to make sure that it can handle all of the water in times of inundation. And the capacity of the Reagan Street pump station, just in case anyone thinks ahead to that, is more than adequate to handle the heavy rainfall once these upgrades are complete. So if you can get the storm water from Reagan Street into the Reagan Street pump station, the pump station can do its job. It's just right now you're not able to get it there where it belongs. Anybody have questions about the scope of the project or any information I've shared so far? Yes, Regina.
Regina Russell, is this a mandated project because of the problems we've had over the years with the flooding on Reagan?
This particular project is going through for CDBG funding on the merits of the fact that it will decrease flooding. However, when you finish this work, it will take a big chunk out of the consent order that yes is mandatory. And just for people who may not be familiar with how that works, your sewer authority was given up until, I can't remember, 2022? 2023 to separate out all storm and sewer lines within the city. They've done Chestnut Street, they've done some of them. If they do not reach that mandate in time, they will be required to put in an additional treatment step, if you will, process at the existing treatment plant that will increase over time the cost of providing sewer and water treatment to the city. If they actually can find a way to get the money they need to comply with the mandate and just do the stormwater separation up front, there will be no additional treatment needed. It'll be a greener solution. It'll be a cheaper solution. So this is one of those situations where extra hard work up front will pay great dividends in the long run. Did that answer your question?
I asked, was it mandated? So, yeah.
I guess a simple yes would have sufficed. I'm sorry.
You do what you do.
Yeah, I do. I talk too much. That's what I do. Any other questions? Thank you. So the estimated cost for the demolition of the existing line, replacement with new lines, as well as new curbing, sidewalks, and street trees is estimated to be just over $2 million. That includes everything from, sewer manholes to engineering to everything in the project. This estimate, however, doesn't include paving costs because the city has negotiated with PennDOT, who Reagan Street was on their paving plan, so they have agreed to wait to pave it until this work is done, and that thereby getting you more value, if you will, that you're not going to have to pave this project once it's finished. A project of this magnitude, just like Chestnut Street, it will dig up the road. So everything will need to be replaced once it's done, but in the Reagan Street area, those services, curbing, trees, sidewalks, they need to be upgraded anyway, so it'll kind of be just an extra bang for your buck, if you will.
Regina Russell, is this project going to allow bids? Will you be seeking bids, or do we have to still use the same people who have been doing the work all the time?
Well, actually, the same people who have been doing the work all the time were acquired by bids. Every time you use CDBG money, the council has no say in who gets the bid. The bid goes to the lowest responsible bidder. That's CEDACOG's role to make sure that that happens. So every time there's a bid awarded with CDBG money, it goes to the lowest responsible bidder. And what that means is you put bids in. The lowest bidder, we need to do research on, make sure there's no liens against them, make sure they haven't done anything illegal or wrong. There's several websites we check, and then when that bidder is cleared as responsible, then the bid can be awarded. And we'll be awarding a bid later tonight, and that entire process has already been done. Okay. The funding plan, the municipal authority will actually take out loans to cover any grant funding that's not received on this project. So up front, we're working very hard to get as much grants as we can, because loans that the municipal authority will need to take out not only returns that cost to you, the taxpayers, but also returns it with interest. So if we can get grant money up front, this project will be much cheaper for all of you here. In addition, you will not have to pay for the interest on the loans. So the more active we can be in researching and getting grant money, the better it is for the city. Currently, the funding plan is that the city will put in 2018 CDBG entitlement, the money that you get every year, in the amount of $240,000. We're going for the CDBG competitive for $1 million. The city's also put in a Keystone Communities grant for $400,000 for this project, and DCED flood mitigation grant that certainly hasn't been awarded yet, but in the amount of $200,000 is looking positive. And then the Sunbury Municipal Authority has pledged to put in at least $250,000. Any questions?
I think the 200,000 was awarded.
200? Oh, it was awarded? Okay, good. I heard it in a grapevine, but I didn't know if it was official. So yay, 200 was awarded.
I just have one question.
Sure.
If they don't get the grant, does the city then, are we on the hook then for $1 million, or is it only if, are we just trying for the grant? But
I think you're asking me if the city doesn't get the grant, will you still go ahead with the project?
no, will the $1 million still be on the city's side of the funding plan? You know what I mean? Will the city still owe $1 million if we don't get the grant? Will it still be our responsibility to pay $1 million that would have been a grant?
If the city chooses to proceed in that direction, but I believe that they're gonna wait and see. Jim, you may be able
That's
to.
true, and also, Joe, the municipal authority realizes they have to get, they're gonna be involved for $250,000. But by the same token, the tank that Linda was referring to, there's another plant project on the table for, down at the plant down here at the lower end of 4th Street. That would be roughly $3 million, so they feel by making the investment there, because once you build the holding tank, is all they'd be building, there's maintenance, and of course, in 30 to 40 years, it probably has to be replaced. So that project's been set on the back burner. They want to invest money at the north end, so we can solve. Now, Linda, I just want to correct one thing. The mandate is 85% of removal out of the system.
Thank you.
Okay? Now, this project definitely will take more than 85%. That will justify or satisfy the mandate from the municipal authority.
But if we don't get the grant, then how are you planning to pay for it? That's the.
Joe, I think to answer your question easier, and what we've talked about, basically we go through all the applications, see what we get, and then it comes back from there whether the project can be done or not,
Right.
whether the municipal authority can contribute more at that point, and then we look at it from there. So there's really, we can't really say, just we have to see first what we get awarded, and then all get together and see if it can be done before we were awarded at that point. So no, we're not on the hook for anything until we actually decide whether we want to go forward with the project.
Whether you
Does that
accept
answer
it.
Yeah, that's the question I was asking. Are we on the hook for
We're
anything?
not, no.
The authority would be going out for the loans, not us.
Okay.
And the thing that you're on the hook for, quite frankly, is removing 85%, is causing 85% of your stormwater to be separated from your sanitary sewer, meaning you need to run 2 separate pipes where there's currently 1. That has to happen. And if it doesn't happen by 2023, then the municipal authority will have to enact even more expensive.
Yeah, it's still the city. I mean,
Yeah.
we still own the municipal authority anyway, so yeah. So it's still the city one way or another, but.
This way is just more cost effective and
Yeah.
smarter, I think.
Linda, one more question, please. With the flood mitigation, and I'm not the brightest person in this area, from what I'm reading, I guess this doesn't have anything to do with the flood wall, where I'm reading that needs to be repaired.
No,
So that
is
would come
not,
under a separate grant? Will we ever get a grant for that?
I'm not familiar with the needs on the flood wall. I do know that the flood wall is an extremely important part of Sunbury's safety program, but I can't speak to that. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
There's no CDBG funding recently in it. There was many, many years ago, but
Thank you.
sure. So the CDBG grant I'm sorry, go ahead.
Did you say that they would be tearing up the sidewalks and the curbing?
They'll be probably needing to tear up sidewalks and curbing to do some of the work. Where they do need to tear it up, it will be replaced.
Will the owners of the property have to pay for that?
No.
No.
That was a good answer. Everybody likes that answer. So the competitive grant process, the final public hearing for this will be November 12th at 6:15 here in council chambers. I will be writing the application for the city of Sunbury. This is something that CEDACOG does upfront, free of charge. If the grant is approved, we will take admin money out at that time. If the grant is not approved, you will not have to pay any administration fees for the writing of the grant. Demonstrating community support for this project is a critical part of a competitive application. It's what determines really if an application gets funded or doesn't get funded. If you feel that this is a good project for your city and you want to take a moment to write a letter of support, I have a sheet here I'll put on the front of the table. I'm going to have handouts in the city clerk's office and mayor's office. I'm also going to do a direct mailing to members of the fire department Sunbury Hospital, some of the other critical assets for Sunbury that we know are negatively impacted when flooding occurs. For instance, when flooding occurs, it cuts off America's Hose Company, where ambulances are dispatched from the hospital, which is where they need to get to. It makes it much more difficult to get to the hospital. There is concern through many people I've talked to at emergency service providers that in the event that during a flood situation, if a train would stall on the train tracks and flooding would occur at the underpass, the city would actually be completely bisected. There would be no way to get from one side to the other. That's been a concern that's been in the back of people's minds for years and years and years, but as you can see, this is a very expensive project, so it's never been something that the city's been able to fund on its own. So this is an opportunity to really kind of put things right in the way of safety for the city, where transportation is concerned. So are there any citizen, at this time, any citizen comments, discussion, questions? Anything that is a comment tonight will go on public record, or will go in with the grant application. So does anybody have anything? Yes.
Julie, B-R-O-S-I-U-S. I'm just curious, and maybe this came up and I'm not aware of it, but are these projects also inspected along the way?
Yes, they have to be inspected.
Who does the inspection?
It depends who the city gets to do the inspecting. In the RFP for engineering has not gone out yet for this project. Depending on who is awarded the engineering contract, it could be that the engineer is certified to do those inspections. If the engineer is not, I'm not sure. They would have to go through a procurement process and a process to make sure that they're qualified.
Okay.
Sure.
I have a question.
I sent my pen around. Would you mind write down the comments or give me
I
your pen?
can.
Oh, okay.
Here it is.
Oh, thanks.
I have a question.
Yes.
Dave Whipple, Edison Avenue. In 1957, when they redid 2 blocks of our street, they took out one of the sewer lines. Put a smaller sewer line in, but we still had, at that point, 2 million gallons coming down the storm drain from, at that time it was Merit Laundry and Celotex. Of course, Celotex is gone.
Where are you? Are you on Reagan?
Edison Avenue,
You're in Edison?
yes.
Okay.
Well, we still flood up there, so when they put this new pipe in from Reagan Street, that should alleviate a lot of our problems.
Yes, Dave. There'll be a new line running up Susquehanna, a major line,
Okay,
up around, I want to guess, I see Allison, I'm only guessing.
okay,
There'll be another crossover to Front Street. There's a major line to Front Street heading south.
okay,
And that's, of course, coming into the pump station there at Reagan Street. There'll be a line running from Susquehanna over to Edison to pick up your location.
okay.
And there'll be another one down, like I said, I'm only guessing, heading south, about midway between those two. And then the southern end of the last 3 blocks to Reagan will be picked up at Reagan.
Okay, well, that will help, I know, because when they did last year, when they ran water from Edison over to Susquehanna, that helped us a lot, but we still get some flooding.
Same principle as that, but in a much larger scale.
But the Reagan Street will pull more of that out up there too, with the bigger pipe.
Yes, and then also there's a corner up there on the north-west corner. There's a line running underneath the flood wall existing, a 30-inch line, we're going to be utilizing that. That's one of the phases of this roughly 5-phase project.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Yes.
Stephanie Sterner, what is the time frame for this project?
Well, it would have been nice had I brought that along. I can remember most of it. It depends on, currently I'm writing the grant application for the entitlement, which will be due November 2nd. And then the competitive grant application is due the end of December. You should find out around the same time if you get both those grants. So if you'd only get the entitlement approved and the competitive would not be approved, for instance, now back to the drawing board. So I can't really give you
Is there a plan for alleviating traffic concerns?
Oh, yeah, absolutely, there will be. But we're not at the planning stage yet because the grant is going to pay for the engineering. So I think you can trust any good engineer to take care of traffic concerns here. It will just be part of the requirement for the project. And we'll put it into the RFP, meaning it'll be required. Yes?
Okay, my name is John Campbell. I used to work in architecture quite a few years. And whenever we put a bid out, we just reviewed the bid real well to make sure that everything was covered. What about cost overruns? Will the city, you run into railroad tracks that you didn't know were there?
That'll be handled through a change order.
The change order, now we have to approve the change order?
The city does the city approve the change order? Okay.
Now-
Different councils handle it different ways, but here the city will approve all change orders.
Okay, what we used to also do, especially for nursing homes, we had a date for it to be done. If they finished it less than that date, we would pay them X amount of dollars a day. If they exceeded that date, they reduced it off the total contract. Has anybody ever thought of that?
It's in the contract, John.
It is in the contract?
And we also build in, depends what the project is, 20-25% we build in on cost overruns, just like you just mentioned. It's built into the contract.
Okay. Very good.
But you would still need to look at why a contractor is overrunning and make sure it's a valid reason.
Well, like John said, we find something we didn't know about.
Right,
That's what
absolutely. In that case, yes.
On phase 2 of Chester Street, we found an oil tank. So it was cost roughly $3,000, I'm only guessing. It was something unexpected we found along the curb line. That's a good example of what you're referring to here, John. But those overruns were built in within reason into the project.
But the deadline that they have,
There is a penalty clause in all contracts.
okay, because I think Chester Street's been running a long time, but that's just me.
Well, but if you look at the contract, they're not.
Okay.
It's been in 4 phases. 4 phases.
That was a major undertaking, that project.
Yeah, and you've gotten grant money in there from, you had 175,000 of CDBG competitive. I think you even had more than that. I think you had 3 CDBG competitives. You had like 4 years in entitlement funding. You had money from PennDOT. You had money from Keystone Communities. I mean, there was a lot of money put into that. And the project was phased on purpose, so it took a little longer, but that allowed you to get more grant money and have less money come out of the city coffers. So yeah, I know people there have been putting up with that for a long time, but it's another one of those, in the long run, it's better for you this way. Yes.
So for that particular project, Chestnut Street, who's the inspector for that?
It's through PennDOT.
PennDOT?
Sometimes PennDOT says they need to inspect based on what roads you're working on, and then other times they let other engineers inspect for them.
So they inspect the entire project or just the road portion of it, or?
The inspectors inspect in phase 4.
I'm talking about curbing,
That's
sidewalks.
what we're doing. We're doing that right now. He's there every day.
And then the city pays dearly for a PennDOT inspector. They're not cheap, just so you know. I mean, no inspection is cheap. I don't want to make it sound like PennDOT's gouging the community. That's not the case. It's just they're very thorough and you pay for that.
They have a history, let's just say that.
Any other questions about this project? Any concerns, any comments in favor, anything that somebody would like to go on record about? Okay, hearing none, I am going to go to the last part of my public hearing. Attached to your agenda are regulatory requirements and announcements that are required by the Community Development Block Grant Program. I'm going to give you an overview of each of those notices that are attached to your agenda, and if you have questions or comments on any one of them, please let me know and I'll be happy to answer them. Attached to your agenda is a copy of the Fair Housing Notice. The City of Sunbury has adopted and published a fair housing analysis and has plans to further fair housing in the county, in the city, excuse me. The notice advises residents of discriminatory actions that are prohibited, as well as to provide direction to residents with notifying appropriate agencies should a discriminatory action occur. The information in your packet will tell you how you can get in touch with appropriate people if you have concerns about fair housing. The city has also developed an anti-displacement plan. It's always the intent of the city to undertake CDBG activities that do not displace residents. However, CDBG regulations require that the city adopt a plan as to how it would address relocations in the event that they would need to occur, and that plan that's attached does just that. It lays out how people who would need to be relocated in the course of CDBG funded projects, how that would happen and what their rights would be. Section 504 is a CDBG regulation requiring accessibility to all members of the public. Any person who believes they've been discriminated against because of a disability should contact Sunbury Section 504 compliance officer. That information is in the packet attached to the agenda as well. And at the bottom of the agenda is something called a Section 3 preference statement, which talks about ways that low to moderate people can become business owners. And if anyone is interested, or you know of any business that's interested, you're invited to contact Cedar Cog's Community Development Program, me for instance, for more information. Finally, I need to let you know that there is no cause to believe at this time that an negative environmental impact will be identified with this project, but before it can begin, we will be doing a full-fledged environmental review to make sure that no negative environmental problems would arise from the work that's being done. Any questions? You can close me out.
Public hearing is now closed.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Sure.
And then we're back to the public meeting. This time, is there any audience comment on agenda items only at this time? And please hold all vacant property ordinance comments until asked for them at a later point during this meeting. Everyone who wants to speak on this topic will have time to do so. Is there any other audience comment? At this time, I want to thank our code officer, Mike Rhodes, for his actions that promoted the safety and welfare of our residents. An elderly and disabled couple in our city reached out to different agencies with no help returned. They contacted our code office, and Mike Rhodes contacted Area Agency on Aging, who met with the couple and then helped with their needs. Mike Rhodes also checked on this elderly couple a few times, and they have contacted my office to make sure that I knew of Mike's kind and caring actions. Thank you, Mike, for caring for our residents in our city. Thank you. All right. Linda Sterling for the competitive CDBG grant Reagan Street project.
Don't make me do that again.
No.
I will sweat buckets if I have to go through all that again.
All right.
You want me to come up with other stuff? Or is it time?
All right, well, let's do Councilman Ister for the CES engineering bill.
Okay, I have an invoice for phase 4 from the engineer. Invoice 180240 for the amount of $1,478.75. I'd like to make that motion to pay that invoice.
And that's coming out of the money we got from SMA, right?
CDBG.
Phase 4 is CDBG.
CDBG, okay, I'm sorry.
Yep, no worries.
Thank you.
Kramer?
Yes.
Reichner?
Yes.
Reese?
Yes.
Ister?
Yes.
Karlovic?
Yes. All right, Councilman Reichner, nuisance list.
All right, whereas the city council of the city of Sunbury has legal authority to declare properties of public nuisance pursuant to third-class city code 11 PS 12320, whereas the property owners of the public nuisance properties are put on notice to bring the property within the Boca Code standards, whereas the city council wishes to recognize that the property owners of the properties listed in Exhibit A have fulfilled the requirements to bring their properties up to code. Whereas the city of Sunbury further wishes to thank the property owners who have made the diligent efforts to work with the city of Sunbury Code Office to fulfill the required improvements and bring their properties up to code. Whereas the city council wishes to compare the properties listed in Exhibit A attached hereto located in the city of Sunbury to be removed from the current public nuisance property list. Whereas the city council takes this action by formally acting as a board of health pursuant to 11 PS 123-301. Therefore, it is hereby resolved as follows. The City Council hereby acts as a Board of Health in the adoption of this resolution. The City Council declares that the properties listed in Exhibit A attached hereto and located in the city of Sunbury are no longer declared public nuisance properties and therefore removed from the city's public nuisance property list. An updated current list will be posted at City Hall reflecting this change passed this 24th day of September 2008. Make that motion.
Reese?
Yes.
Eister?
Yes.
Karlovic?
Yes.
Kramer?
Yes.
Reichtner?
Yes.
Now we'll do Linda Sterling for fair housing resolution.
Hi, I'm here to ask you tonight to consider the 2018 Fair Housing Resolution, which I believe you have a copy in your packets for the community members. Every year, as part of CDBG regulations, council is required to pass a new fair housing resolution like the one that is enclosed in your packet for tonight's information. Do you have any questions on the resolution?
I make a motion to do the authority to the mayor to sign it.
Second.
Karlovic?
Yes.
Kramer? Yes. Reichtner?
Yes.
Reese?
Yes.
Eister?
And just to let you all know and to remind you, CEDACOG routinely, annually, on behalf of the city of Sunbury, takes 3 specific fair housing actions in order to comply with mandatory federal and state requirements. It publishes a fair housing notice in the Sunbury Daily Item. It announces and summarizes the fair housing analyst and calls attention to Sunbury's commitment to fair housing during the first public hearing, like I did tonight. And it invites, during the hearing like tonight, the public to understand how they can report offenses to the resolution. In addition, each year Sunbury is required to take a fair housing action to comply with the state fair housing requirements. During the month of June 2018, CEDACOG mailed a flyer it had created explaining how local nuisance ordinances can inadvertently affect housing in potentially discriminatory ways, and gave tips as to how to avoid those situations from occurring. Just wanted to let you know the actions that are taken to further fair housing in Sunbury.
Thank you. All right, Councilman Eister and Linda Sterling for the bid award.
Just a little background, and I'm going to turn it over to Jim. As noted, the Chestnut Street project has been moving along for quite a few years now. CDBG funds are being used in what will be the final phase of this project. As a result of all the utility work that needed to be done, the street needed to be completely destroyed. So we are using CDBG funds to correct that and create a new subbase and also to pave. The last phase, if you will, of this Chestnut Street project will be paving. Tonight, we're going to look to the council to decide if they want to award the bid. We had a bid opening and discovered legally the lowest bidder on this project. That bidder was researched and found to be reasonable and responsible. We cannot move forward with this project, however, until we have a cleared emotional, I'm getting emotional about this. Until we have a cleared environmental review, which we do not have yet, but we expect any day. Go ahead, Jim, unless you have questions for me.
No. On the awarding, like you said, then the environmental review has to be done, finished first, you said roughly next week.
Right.
Once that's completed, its contract will be, we're gonna make the motion this evening, then we'll award after that.
Right, you can make the motion, but you can't award until the review
Right.
clears.
For Phase 4 Chestnut Street, which will include paving and milling of Chestnut Street, the bid, low bid was G.R. Charles of the sum of $246,101.67. I'd like to make a motion to award that after we receive the review and proceed from there.
Second.
Kramer?
Yes.
Reichtner?
Yes.
Reese?
Yes.
Eister?
Yes.
Karlovic?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, just a reminder, I did leave handouts on the front table here for anybody who wants more information about how to write support for the flood mitigation.
Linda, I was wondering if I could, as a previous Lewisburg downtown manager, I was wondering if I could have your professional opinion regarding my proposed vacant property ordinance.
Sure. I think, ordinances need to suit the city or communities that they're passed in, and they, each community is different. I think in Sunbury's case, an ordinance of this kind signals that there's increased economic vibrancy and that you're not looking to preserve the status quo, meaning you're looking forward. I also think in this sort of ordinance, one of the things that's really important is how fairly it's administered, which when I did read the article in the newspaper, struck me that there were good things in place to make sure that property owners would, because there are legitimate reasons why you can't rent property sometimes. So there needs to be good policies in place to make sure that those property owners can receive the accommodations that they need. But with that in place, I think it's a good tool to signal to the region that you're on the move. Sure. Anything else for me before I cut out of here?
Nope, not for me.
Okay, thank you.
I got something for Jim, if I can, please.
Yes, John.
4th Street with the Halloween parade. Is that gonna be taken care of, paved by that time?
Paved, no. Paving won't happen on 4th Street until next year. They're gonna backfill and put it to try and get as close as they can, but they do say that they're supposed to be done with 4th Street with the construction portion by the end of the month. That's what UGI told me as of, that was last Friday, I think I talked to them. But the paving, it's just too late in the year to do it. And PennDOT's coming back to repave not only the section that they worked on, but all the way out to Shikellamy Avenue next year. That's a project that they're doing from 4th and Market all the way to Shikellamy Avenue. But it will be better than what it is now.
Yeah, it is.
It's bad, so they're gonna come back and at least repair it to where that it's not.
It is. For 40 years, we've been in Halloween parades with our gymnastics.
Sure.
So I don't think I can put kids on there and spraying their ankles.
Well, yeah, I mean, you just have to kind of look at it.
Not unless they can do a sub-base on it, maybe.
They're gonna try and get it as best as they can before the winter, before that parade and when they're done, and then we'll just kind of evaluate if you think you can, and go from there, but I can't make any guarantee on how, it's not gonna be smooth, I can tell you that for sure.
Maybe take it down to 2nd Street, to Reagan over.
But,
Our solicitor, Reese?
Yes, I had been approached by and through counsel for Bimbo Bakeries regarding the 2 alleys that are located within the confines of the Bimbo property. Apparently in 1998, the city council had voted to allow the vacation of at least 1 and possibly 2 alleys that laid within the real property owned by Bimbo. It's my understanding that, well, I don't think it was owned by Bimbo then, but it's my understanding that those alleys are actually under pavement and are used as parking lots at this point. So we're kind of being asked to fix what happened before, in that nothing was ever filed with the Court of Common Pleas showing that those alleys had been vacated. That being said, at this point, we cannot simply take a vote to allow me to file with the Court of Common Pleas, because there is a new statute in effect, which basically, new meaning since 1998, and that statute states that we do not have to have a first and second reading. However, I must have the council approve the vacation of the 2 alleys in question. We must advertise for 3 consecutive weeks in the newspaper a copy of the ordinance that will be approved, and at the next meeting after those 3 weeks, in which will be 28 days from today, at least 28 days from today, the council would vote to accept and vacate those ordinances. After that, it would be it'd be on Bimbo Bakery and their council to file it with the court. We don't actually do that anymore. The entity requesting the vacation would actually take care of all of that. But basically what I'm asking is for council to vote whether or not they wish me to prepare an ordinance which would be given to Terry Specht to be advertised in the newspaper with a vote thereon to take place at least 28 days after today.
What property?
The Bimbo Bakeries, I mean, the big
Up on the
property.
hill, down by Packer Street.
Mr. Wicks, can I help you here?
Go ahead, please.
Joey, when they made their altercation or additions to the bakery back when it was still owned by the Apples and Wholesome, they put the big addition on the warehouses. And they acquired a bunch of homes on the Fairmont Avenue, 11th Street side. There was an alley that ran from Ray Street to Line Street. And then off of that alley, there was a small alley, about 15 feet, Terry, I believe it was you and I found, that ran from that alley to 11th Street. Both those alleys were vacated by the city back, as Mr. Weiss was saying. Unfortunately, they're never properly processed and recorded. So now Mr. Weiss is following the current law to get it properly done for the vacation of those alleys so the property can be moved forward and developed.
Sell the property then?
I don't know, they just asked, I mean, I'm assuming,
But to be able to sell it, you have to have.
to be able to sell, they'd have to do
Okay.
this.
Well, then,
Second that.
Reese?
yes.
Eister? Karlovic?
Yes.
Kramer?
Yes.
Reichner?
Yes.
We have finished our civil service requirements and testing of a new candidate for our police department. Earl Johnson from Pottsville is currently a full-time officer for the Capitol Police in Harrisburg. He has 4 years of law enforcement experience. I'll make a motion to hire Earl Johnson as a full-time officer at a starting salary of Patrolman 1 status of $45,298, effective 2 weeks from today, with a 1-year probationary period following. Do I have a second?
Second.
Eister? Karlovic?
Yes.
Kramer?
Yes.
Reichner?
Yes.
Reese?
Yes.
James McKinney recently passed and was a member on our Sunbury Housing Authority Board, which is comprised of 5 members. I make a motion to appoint Dolores Diaz, a resident of Scott Towers, to serve the remainder of Mr. McKinney's appointment, which ends the end of 2021. Do I have a second?
Second.
Reichner?
Yes.
Reese?
Yes.
Eister?
Yes.
Karlovic?
Yes.
Kramer?
Yes.
All right, Treasurer Troop?
Yeah, we got RFPs back from the banks, there's 3 of them. I'd like to take a look at them, decide one, or let the solicitor take a look and go on his approval if you want to move forward on $500,000.
That's a line of credit, am I correct?
Line credit, yes, all 3 of them are credit, yes.
What were the numbers?
They came in all types, it's anything from 90% of the prime rate, which to me, I think it's high. I'm looking at, looks like it's M&T, no, Susquehanna, it's 2.75, it looks like.
So are we voting on this tonight?
No.
So we'll be able to review this before?
I have to review it, but the other
The
thing,
problem is you have to go in front of the judge to get the okay on this, so the longer we drag our feet, the farther we're gonna fall behind. We have about $1,000 in the bank and payroll next week. So you guys decide what you want to do.
And I understand the importance of this, but due to the importance and the impact of this decision that it will have on our city's future, I do want to make sure that we're looking at all of our options and that our solicitor does look into everything that we
That's
have to
correct,
do.
I agree with the solicitor, should be.
and what I'm suggesting is, this obviously carries the, how shall I say, the necessary requisites for constituting an emergency. I think that if you give me a day or so to review this, and you all take a day or so to review this, we may have to have an emergency meeting to get it passed so that I can get it in front of the court. I think that we don't have a lot of time on this, but I think you do have to do due diligence in everybody taking a look at it and in me getting it ready to go before the court. So I would ask that you all be aware that we may be requesting an emergency meeting in the very near future, like the end of this week, in order to get this thing done so that we can get the loan taken care of, if it's deemed to be necessary by the board. Okay? Does that work for you, Kevin?
Yeah, that, absolutely. I mean, if DCED says we have emergency situations, you can get these up.
Right, right. Thank you. We'll need a quorum. Anybody else?
Councilwoman Kramer, approval to pay invoices?
We have invoices from the general fund of $117,681.02. I'd like to make that in a motion that we pay those.
Second.
Reichner?
Yes.
Reese?
Yes.
Eister?
Yes.
Karlovic?
Yes.
Kramer?
Yes.
All right, now we're on to the vacant property registration board. No, we're gonna do that after we're done. So you all are aware today is not a second reading. I know that's been floating around for some reason. All right, so I'm gonna open it up. Does anybody have a comment regarding the vacant property ordinance? All right, please approach the podium, state your name.
Today, South of the Street in Sunbury, town of Putnam, Roman. And I didn't read this stuff here, I couldn't go over it, but what I understanding is the ordinance. And I understand about trying to improve vacant lots and everything like that. But as a property owner, I can't rent my vacant duplex the other side because I don't have off-street parking. So what do you do in a case like that if I don't do that? Do I get fined because it's vacant?
There would be a waiver that you can fill out to avoid fees on the inspection regarding the ordinance. And regarding being able to rent the property, you'd have to go through Councilman Reichner's department.
You'd have to request a waiver for off-street parking.
Or off-street parking, I have to do that? I'm gonna code office now?
Yes.
You can apply for a land use variance through the zoning hearing board, which is a fee for a hardship, showing your hardship, that you can go before the board, show your hardship, and they would show approval or disapproval for that hardship.
How long has it been since you've had your property rented?
But I haven't, well, it's been a long time, I've lived here for 12 years.
Oh, you've never had it as a rental before?
No, I never rented it, I had my niece who was living on the other side of it for a while. But I do, when I bought it, they said I could not rent because of no off-street parking. But I'm fixing it up now and I'd like to try to rent it. So, those variants?
I didn't catch your name.
Patricia Day.
Thank you.
DA1.
And for that situation regarding this vacant property ordinance, you can get a waiver
Okay, waiver
for the fees and inspection. You just have to be registered at the code office with your contact information.
Okay, so that's registered, okay. It is in the process of getting fixed up. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
My name's Mark Wahlberg. I've been coming to your council meetings for years. I was in charge of the code office board, and it's interesting to see this new ordinance, which in my opinion, can only hurt the city in many ways. And I'll start off with, there's numerous, but first of all, I'd like to ask each person sitting up here how many commercial properties they own and how many properties they've invested in the city of Sunbury.
Okay, and before we answer that, can I ask how many commercial properties or residential properties do you own in the city of Sunbury, and how many of them are vacant and empty?
Yeah, that's fine. I have right now vacant 2 schools, of which one I could have put a drug rehab in the city, but I chose not to. They had the money, they were from Lewisburg. I could have leased the building. But unlike other people that I've run into, I don't put whatever once comes my way. I wouldn't put a drug rehab in your neighborhood. I wouldn't put it on 4th Street in that school.
Therefore, I leave it empty until I get a positive, long-term, good investor. Same thing with the middle school. I'm trying to get a college for the city. It goes slow. I've had 12 meetings myself, 2 different colleges. I've sent brochures out. I maintain, I plow. These were not on the tax rolls and now are on the tax rolls. So I'm paying property taxes for all these properties that I buy and rehab at least, and I'm paying the city, which goes in your coffers that seem not to be able to be managed by you guys, but I can manage to pay my taxes when they go in, so I manage mine.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
So you said it can only hurt the city. So I guess for me, just kind of why do you think that? Because when I gather on your properties, they all would apply, they all would be able to get the waiver.
Because if you're an investor,
Sure.
and you're driving down a street, I mean, I have different issues, but for openers, if you're trying to sell your property and there's 3 vacant properties on the street, what kind of offer you think you're gonna get with a big sign in front saying, call John Doe at 743. It says if it's empty, you have to have a sign, a commercially made sign with the owner's name. So if you're investing, it's the streetscape, not all the signs that show people. So you're gonna make a low offer, which pushes the property values down, which means the tax basis, you should go and appeal your taxes and get a lower thing.
But in my opinion, that's already happening with the owners of empty buildings. Because when I bought my home, I investigated if my neighboring buildings were empty, being used, or what's going on with them. So a sign's not gonna make no difference in your property.
It does make a difference.
The empty building's gonna make a difference in
Can
surrounding.
I ask you how many commercial properties you've owned?
I own 1 residential home.
Okay. Therefore, I've experienced for years renting, buying, jumping through hoops and loops. And to take a property and properly restore it, let's say 3,000 square feet. Now, unfortunately, here in Sunbury, our downtown has mostly bigger buildings. That's unfortunate because of internet business and retail. If the mall, with all their money, can't fill up their properties, why should you penalize the people who own the properties, pay the taxes? We have ordinances in place, I'm not against ordinances, that cover blight, high grass, I pay snow removal, mowing, I have crews, okay? They go through and do every property. I haven't been written up by the code office on any property.
So again, I'll ask though, how are they being penalized?
Huh?
So the people at the downtown, if they are paying
It says you
their
have to
taxes-
register.
Okay, so is that a penalty?
But you guys already know, it's registered. The
So-
tax basis comes in.
We don't know who owns
No.
every property in the
No,
city
that's
somewhere.
not true.
This is to be,
A
this is
little bit
written
of
to be
homework,
fair
you can
to
go to
every
the
single
county
person.
office, that's how I get all my information, it's right here, the public record. If you guys could spend a little time, rather than making undue burdens on people that do good.
I apologize you may feel this way, Mr. Walberg, but I don't feel that this is any kind of a burden on our property owners. Because what if it's a Sunday evening, someone's windows are busted out, they're falling out on Market Street, who do we call? We don't have that contact information on the weekend.
Well, then, the city should have it, you guys should
Not on
have
the
it.
weekend, offices are closed on the weekends.
Well, the person might not be home.
With your
either when
properties,
you call
with your
them.
argument that you're making regarding this ordinance, you're more than willing to and able on your behalf to fill out a waiver of,
I just think,
waiver of fees.
first of all, here's another thing. We have an investment group where we bought the CVS building, made up of local Sunbury businessmen and investors. And it took us a long time to get State Farm in there and cerebral palsy in back. Okay, and we bought the building, we waited, we got somebody good for the storefront, we fixed the facade, we put in new air conditioning, new heating, new bathrooms, to the tune of $180,000 on the front part. So, you know, the private money to force people, first of all, if we had a better image of the city, which you should be working on in my home.
This ordinance will help with that.
Huh?
This ordinance
It,
will.
only in your opinion. I've talked to many people.
I've talked to-
Jesse Woodring couldn't make it tonight. Talk to people that own properties. Don't talk to people that rent or on Section 8 housing. You gotta talk to people that put their money where their
And
mouth
I
is.
do, and I've talked to numerous other municipalities that actually have this, and it's, after a couple of years, it's benefiting the
Name one.
communities.
Name one. You told me to name stuff. I'm here. Name one. Two can
Set up a
put.
meeting, I have a listening office,
No, you asked me right now. I'm asking you.
and I don't have to answer that.
But you call me down and I answer everything. Okay, let me continue on. Then you have an ordinance in here where if it's not leased, you want to penalize the owner. After 5 years, it goes up double and triple. Here, in partnership names, that's why they have LLCs and corporations. It doesn't, you don't need 10%, all the owners of 10%. All you need is the member that's in charge of that LLC. That's how you file your taxes. That's how it's done.
There's other ordinances that have that in there.
Number 4, if partnership names residents of partners with an interest of 10% or greater, you have it in there. It's 4. Okay, then you have, let's see, oh, and you exempt. It's interesting that the city's exempt, except you're leasing the floor above us.
It's occupied.
Correct. Are they paying taxes on the building? No, because you're competing with private money who pays taxes by giving them property with no taxes due, which is an unfair basis to compete with. Burger King over here, you lease that parking lot, do they pay property taxes there? Do they? They don't. Okay, so if I want to put a restaurant in it.
It's occupied, it's benefiting the community.
Yeah, but why should they, it's a private business, why should
It's
they not pay?
occupied.
It doesn't matter, it's not a
It
fair
doesn't matter.
competition.
Because why should we have buildings that have been sitting empty 5, 10 years, just because you keep the grass cut and you wash the windows every once in a while? Like,
Because it's not
benefiting
for
the
you to
community.
say how a private American citizen invested his money and waits for the
I
right
know,
thing
and
to
that
put
is,
in
that
there.
is everyone's right in this country to own property, but it's our duty to make sure that we're
It's
watching
not
out
your
for the
duty to
benefit
tell
of our
investors how to
community's
invest.
future.
That's socialism, young man.
That's why, if it was socialism, I wouldn't care about what anybody here is saying right now. I've taken complaints, I've taken concerns, and I'm going to
Okay,
be asking
so
for
I asked
changes
you a
to
question,
this.
you don't have to answer mine. But I'll answer all yours. Burger King, you advance more, and the city pays the snow plowing for Burger King's parking
All
lot.
right, Councilman
That's
Ister.
not true.
Okay, what do you charge?
We don't plow the parking.
Who plows that city parking lot where you park in?
Thank you, city parking lot.
Yeah, it's different.
Okay, but the city parking lot is what Burger King uses, I presume?
No, they have their
The
own.
Market House uses it, plenty other places. use it.
Seriously.
Huh?
No, that parking
Where's the
lot.
line over there? I'm curious.
Well, give me a call, I'll show you
All
exactly
right,
the
but
line.
they still don't pay property taxes because the
No.
city owns.
It's
Okay.
city owned, but by the same token, you're
So
missing.
I pay $6,000 a year property taxes for my property, but
But
Burger King gets a sweetheart deal
Well, they're
and
not
pays
gonna
nothing.
pay
Mark,
That's true.
That's not fair though.
Who pays the taxes for up here? I could have used them in my school.
Mark,
I'm just curious.
it's obvious though, those rentals benefit the whole community. But by the same token, every high rise in the city is
How do
celebrated.
they benefit the whole city if a
Because they pay
competing restaurant has to pay taxes for their restaurant?
Well, their employees are paying taxes, so they're hiring multiple people to come work
Okay,
here.
hang on, let me just go over a few more points.
So far, let me just ask a question again. So
Yeah.
far, your main complaint is someone that abides, they pay all their taxes, they keep their properties up.
Right.
Your main complaint is that they have to fill out a form.
Know that you tax them $400.
No, but if they pay their taxes and they want to wait for the proper, they qualify for a waiver. It says it right in there, they don't pay it
So,
down.
but it's a lot of extra paperwork for
So,
accountants.
okay, so that's what you're saying about, you're saying about the paperwork part.
No, not exactly. The point is, we have a code office that's understaffed already. Would you agree with that? Anyone? Can I ask?
Everything in the city of Sunbury is understaffed.
Okay, so now, you write this, I mean, this ordinance is page after page. You gotta really get a lawyer to read everything. I mean, let's see, delinquent registration fees, you wanna give the people a lien, charge them $150 an hour legal fees to fight to hold their own property because they didn't fill out a form for you? That would be section E. Delinquent registration fees on a lien. So instead of helping the person that might want to get a rental, you'd rather force him in, and if he's late, it says right here, charged at a rate of $150 per hour. So does that look like you're helping your property owners in the city of Sunbury? I'm just
Mark, I
curious.
want to say something.
Yeah,
Burger King pays $30,000 a year to lease that land.
that's nothing for a commercial business.
No.
I mean, go see what they buy land for, where they have Burger Kings.
Well, at least they're not getting off scot-free.
Well, no, just, they don't have to pay their 5,000 or 6,000 year taxes like anyone else that runs a business.
But
50
so it's,
people.
so then it's instead of being confusing, the businesses that you're buying, you're saying you wanna hold them, you wanna generate good things.
No, I
But
don't
they're
want
not-
to hold, I want to get the right thing,
Exactly.
there's a difference.
But so you're comparing it to a Burger King who's there right away, hires what? Burger
All I
King
say
hires
is they
30 or
should
40
pay their fair
employees.
share of property taxes, that's all, that's a fair playing field.
So if they weren't renting that property would be
It was a vacant
unusable.
lot. And
But
then they
now
would
it's
have
being
bought somebody
utilized.
else's
It's
property.
bringing people into the
They
city.
would have bought
and it's
private
employing people into
investors'
the city.
property
It's
and
giving
gone
us
there.
really income.
But anyway, let me keep going just a second. Oh, and your mandated signs. Now, a lot of people have for rent signs, small, they buy them at Kohl's, but you're mandating a commercial sign 18 inches by 24 inches.
You can buy those at Lowe's.
Well, I mean, but, you know,
This is to help promote substantial efforts on the property owner's part to utilize the property so that it benefits the entire city of
Well, there
Sunbury.
has to-
And not just one person, or to use it as a tax write-off, or to collect the properties and do nothing with them except fix them.
well,
This is to promote substantial effort, to utilize our city.
and I'd still like to know what cities are using, but you don't want to tell me that.
I don't have my list on me right now. There's a list of 87 communities.
Well, I would ask the two things after, this should be tabled. The code office doesn't have the manpower to do this.
There's nothing to be taken, we already had a first reading. The
Okay.
second reading is not today.
Huh?
The second reading is not today.
Okay, well, then you need to explore it more, because all the ordinances you have are already in your toolbox of ordinances for all this stuff.
And just so you realize, this isn't something we just took, slapped our name on it, and did it in a week. So listen, we've been working on this since he's come on board.
Did you ask any of the other council members to help you on this?
Yes.
You did? Who
Yeah,
actually helped?
I sat in, he at least reviewed it with me multiple times. I
Did
sat
any
in
of
with-
you guys review any of this?
No.
Did you ask them?
Yes.
Prior to, we all got it, prior.
And I mean, just to check, this looks like a way to generate extra money on the back.
It's definitely not a way to generate any extra money, Mr. Walker.
Can I
Well,
jump,
why, then you should waive all the fines
can
and
I,
fees.
can I jump in?
Yeah.
Thank you. I don't vote, okay, so I don't have a dog in the fight,
Okay.
all right? I'm gonna put that right out front.
That's fine.
I respect everything you've done for the city. I know what you've done for the city. I don't think anybody sitting here can possibly say you haven't been a benefit to the city and what you do. And I understand what you're saying about waiting for the right person and waiting for the right entity. We had the same thing out at the orphanage in Fire Tree a couple of years ago where we didn't want them coming in there and I was involved in that fight. My point to you though is this. I'm not sure you are reading this ordinance the way it's supposed to be read. Okay, I'm not insulting you in any way by saying that.
Well, if two people can come up with two different opinions on the same line,
Well-
then maybe it should be rewritten again.
Well, and here's the thing, I don't know that that is correct, all right? And I'm saying this with all due respect, okay?
Yeah?
My point is, you seem to think that there's going to be fees due and owing or something for somebody in your capacity. It's not true. There's no fees, there's no nothing for you or for
I have to
anybody.
come in and sign up every year.
You have to
If
sign
something- It says if something gets vacant,
If something becomes vacant, you
After
have to
2
sign a
months-
piece of paper.
After 90, you have 90 days to
okay,
register
how
your
about the
property.
high rise, are they exempt too?
If the entire building is empty.
No, you're saying here by unit.
No,
Yeah.
if you read this, it's the
I just-
entire building.
No, it says, it doesn't say.
I think,
All I'm saying is, of all the stuff the city needs, and we need a lot of help, and, you know, obviously, hundreds of thousands of dollars of legal fees has been spent behind everybody, you analyzing him analyzing you, and all this. We spent hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees, you guys who couldn't get along, trying to backstab each other. And then the public here, who wants to see the city do good, we just have to sit and watch you guys battle it out, and he complains we don't have enough money to pay. But yet, the people that own these properties are obviously paying, or they would have lost them.
That part isn't true.
Well-
That's the part that's not true, because
They can still take a few years to pay, but the point being.
right,
Okay, but that's a legal avenue that's already on the books.
That's
All I'm
true.
saying is we're short on money, because we spent hundreds of thousands of everybody arguing and backstabbing everybody.
Well, you're not putting that at me.
No, but investigations, I don't know what the numbers are.
Right.
So then, out of everything going on in the city, we're short on policemen. Policemen, we almost get hired, for some reason, don't want to work here and take a different job. Okay, I don't know whose fault it is, but they're fleeing the ship as fast as they can, okay? And that's a fact. So, all this you bring up and spend all this time on this, when we probably, if I went out there and got hit by a car, and in the meantime, one kid got arrested, he would be sitting in the lockup with the only one officer we have, hopefully somebody from the cities that still work with us now, because not all of them do, I read, would come and help.
I just don't understand what that has to do with this.
It's too much time and energy on something
Well,
that
whose
we
time?
already have covered.
Whose time?
Obviously, we're all standing here, we're
Well,
not
yeah.
here for fun.
But my point is, this is regarding vacant property owners who don't pay their taxes, who don't keep the building up, who don't pay any of the necessary things.
But
This
it's
doesn't have anything
general
do with
to
it.
everyone, it doesn't.
No, it's
say-
not. It's specifically.
Okay,
written-
so if I don't come in, if this gets enacted, I don't come in and fill out my forms,
Right,
then by this ordinance,
right,
you're gonna wait after 30 days
90.
and start fining me, 90 days.
right. You have to sign up your property.
But we already signed up for our rental permits for all of our apartments annually.
These are
Your rental
empty,
permits aren't paid
unusable
for.
properties.
Your rental
These are
permits
not
aren't,
utilized
they're not paid.
Anyway,
What, I just don't.
I just think it's a lot of extra paperwork, and we have every ordinance on this list in his office on the
So that, long term, that's what it comes down to,
Yeah.
too much extra work.
It's too much extra ordinances, over management of something we already have on the books. If you read the code, everything in here, like, all that's in the code office.
Okay, but this puts all the information in one spot. It holds property owners, no matter if it's a bank with a foreclosure, you
It's
collecting
still
the
the
buildings,
same ordinance
me
does the
moving out
same
my
thing.
house. It doesn't matter who is.
I don't know, I'm not sure what you're saying, Mike, I'm trying to understand.
Okay, no, if they go to write up something, let's say you have high grass.
Code.
I'm listening. They go to write up something, that's the same as if a vacant registered one has high grass. You give them the same citation?
I assume, yeah.
I don't have to worry about that. I mean, it's.
Oh, it's a
you're talking-
different citation.
You're talking about so a vacant property, it doesn't matter if it's vacant or not, if it's high grass, if it's high
No, a
grass.
vacant property.
Yeah, if it's a vacant property, it's not just the same
High grass
standards
still
as
cited.
our current codes.
Okay, so why would we need a new code if we already have the
This
current
isn't
code?
making a code for them cutting the
Yeah, the high
grass.
grass does nothing with
So
vacant property.
everything's covered already.
No, it's
We're
not.
saying it's not.
All right,
High grass does
anyway,
nothing.
I mean, you guys are gonna do what you're gonna do. I just think that, you know, as someone that's investing right now more than, if there's more than anyone else that I know of in the city, spending not nonprofit money, not, you know, my own money that I pay back, I earn and I pay my taxes on. And I think this is a bad thing.
And I appreciate you wanting to invest in the city, but you're gonna be held to the same standard as every other
I
property.
wanna be. I just don't think I need to keep filling out more and more paperwork on everything. You
This
guys-
is no different than you coming in and applying for construction permits for your building. You come in, you get the application, look, I even have these typed in. Please,
I understand. So if it's no different, why don't we just stick with what we have? Anyway,
pass
I'm
this
done.
around the room, please.
I'm done.
Alright.
You know,
These are
thanks
the
for not answering
applications
my
I've been
questions.
working on, you can take a look at it. This is what you come in, you would grab an
Oh,
application,
yeah.
fill out the
How
property.
how many people do own commercial properties? Do you own any? Do you own any?
Okay, so there's no.
Do you own? Okay, but you're not voting. Do you
I
own any?
already told you, but you
No.
asked.
Do you own any? What do you own?
I have two commercial residential
In Sunbury?
in Sunbury.
Okay, and you have commercial property or rental property?
That was on one parking lot commercial, right by yours.
Okay, so, you know, when you think, in your opinion, is this something that's, I mean, I don't know if you can say this, but what's your honest opinion on?
I got a lot of questions here, how the application's made and so forth.
Yeah.
I agree with you, all the extra work that you go through, okay? But by the same token, some of this is repeated, like you had mentioned about the code office. I think a lot of this stuff is the code office already.
That's what it looks like.
Mike, You have a copy of every property in the city of Sunbury in your office, right? Who owns what?
Yes, sir, for our work program.
Yeah. So in other words, if somebody can call in, like Chris Reese can call and say, we've got a property over here, you can tell him who owns the property.
And give me their phone number?
If the database is up to date, yes.
And their phone number.
But that changes hourly, daily, weekly.
Mike, have you ever had issues regarding properties that's been empty for a long time, or bank-owned or controlled?
All the time, every day. Matter of fact, we just got another one today. You know, it's.
So what you said, you wanted us to answer where I see the benefit for me as a property owner. Let's say I can't rent a property, all right, and it's vacant at the time.
Right.
And I fill out my registration, all my paperwork's filled out, that they know that I own that property, and I go away for a couple weeks. And in the middle of the night, someone breaks into my property, I know that no matter what time of day, the information's there.
He
They
just
call
said
me.
he had that.
But he just said it changes daily, it changes hourly.
Well,
I know
you're
for
only
sure.
gonna have recruit yourself for 1 year, so it'll change on you the same
But
way.
it's way more recent than if it's someone bought the property in the 1950s.
But Chris, it changes regardless of this paperwork filed or not. What he's saying is changing if the property is sold.
Yeah.
Correct, that's correct, if the property's sold. And that was one of the
Still,
things, that was one of the things that code officer stressed to the mayor.
Anyway,
This is just another avenue to make sure that it's taken care of and protected.
Well, I'm gonna say though, here a couple of years ago, the redevelopment authority owned the property on Market Street in the 300 block.
Yeah.
They tried marketing that for a long period of time. I think they had it for a year or two, and they sold it at a discount. What I'm trying to make, like Mark was saying about getting the proper person in there to rent something. Mr. Mayor, Thursday, we had a conversation with a gentleman from Connecticut, talking about marketing downtown businesses in Sunbury. Every community has problems like this, trying to market things, because the department stores aren't coming downtown Sunbury, that's gone. Like you said about the malls losing.
yeah, the mall's 60, I just looked it up on the graph, it's 63% vacant. That's the mall with millions behind it. So,
But they're trying to rent it, so it still wouldn't be, you still wouldn't have to pay anything for this, you just would have to fill out the paper.
right, but I'm just saying what we're up against, and the mall can also do the build out for you, where here, a build out on any one of these older buildings to rewire, replumb, repoint, put in,
And you can get a waiver,
You don't pay enough.
a waiver, you won't pay nothing.
You lose.
all right, well, anyway, I just think it's,
On that note though, if I couldn't fill the paperwork out, okay, and I own the property for the next 10 years, nothing changes.
You try and rent it on papers.
Yeah, of course, I mean, I got money, but it's like Mark hasn't
Yeah.
invested,
Yep,
okay? I pay nothing, what you're trying to tell me.
yeah, that's what it says.
You
right
have to
there.
actively be trying to pursue,
As long as
to
you're
rent it
In
or
other
sell
words,
it.
if I take and have.
but you
with
say
the
by
paperwork-
actively by sign?
Any foreign, because that's if.
Because
you would
word of
allow
mouth
me
is
to.
my best solution.
Because any, what is it, actively for sale or lease, or I'm gonna read you all the definition. A property actively listed and marketed through a licensed real estate agent, broker, or by the owner or interest holder, excluding any mortgagee, who is regularly and consistently advertising the property in newspapers of general circulation. I'm all under the, a concern of another resident, I'm including this, or other advertising methods. You could advertise it on Facebook, you can put an ad in whatever you want. I don't care, as long as you're advertising the property and you're not just sitting on it and saying, I'm waiting for somebody to show interest in it.
But see, why as an investor, you can't wait for the right person?
You can apparently.
You can.
As long as you have a sign up, that's an
Well,
advertisement.
why do you want to put a sign up?
Then you're not pursuing this.
So if I turn to
I
a,
can pick up a phone call and call a college and say, look, I have this school, I'm working hard to get it leased, I'll be happy to send you out my
But
brochure.
then you can apply for the extenuating circumstances waiver.
And say that I sent a letter to a college, that's the same?
No, there's different waivers right in there. It says if there's a situation that you don't want to
Okay.
comply, you come down and say, this is the
All right,
reason
I
why.
still think it's, I don't think it's gonna work, but it's okay.
But you wouldn't pay a single penny,
Huh?
Mr. Walter. You wouldn't pay a penny to this.
It's just the whole thing.
Your properties, the
It's
way you're
just-
doing them, it would get away with. You just have
I'm
to
not
make sure
trying
we
to
have
get
contact
away with
information.
anything, I want the city to turn around more than you do.
Oh, so do I,
To
Mr.
the
Walter.
tunes of millions I've invested, and I'm still invested, and I don't, and I.
I would
plan-
love in the next 4
But the
years to walk
point
down
is-
Market Street and every building is filled instead of
point
people
is,
collecting them.
There's a softer touch of how to get people to comply than sending them a 20 or however many pages of all the fines and penalties. That turns people off. The softer touch might be
the city's gonna sponsor advertising for any landlord or a web page on your site.
And that's another thing,
for
any
free,
property that
and
is
let them come
registered
to
for the
you.
vacant property ordinance,
Yeah,
will, under the consent of the owner or the property manager, we will advertise it on our city's
I know, but
website.
there's just so many lines of fines and putting liens on and charging them $100 a month extra. Now, if you had a softer touch and said, send a nice resume on your property, we'll put it on the city plus you say rent according to local rent. Well, rent goes, I mean, there is no.
That's for the waiver section.
Yeah, but there's no average rent, okay? If you don't.
It goes by the neighborhood comparables with, I
But
believe
you
it's a
can't do
300
that
foot
because
radius.
if you take an old dump of a building and don't rewire it and don't put new furnaces in, they can rent it for $2.50 a square foot. Now, if you go put a new furnace, a new roof, replumb it, rebuild the interior, you gotta get $8 to $10
Okay, and this is
a
also
square foot.
protecting the people that want to invest in our city, like the homeowners.
But you can't, I mean,
The
for
renters,
the city to
because,
say
so my
average.
property, say my property is worth $100,000, but I
Okay.
want to sell it for $200,000.
That's your legal right.
That is, but it's my duty to make sure for the protection of the city.
The city can't.
If you want a waiver, why should you get a waiver of the fees if
No,
you're,
but-
if you want $100,000 more than what it's doing?
Because
it's worth
maybe
it,
your
and then it's
property
sitting
is
empty for 10
special.
years.
The appraisers can't
And
appraise.
this is not Manhattan, Mr. Wahlberg, this is
Oh,
Sunbury,
I'm aware, I
Pennsylvania.
stay in Manhattan a lot.
So do I.
I do business there. And I bring the profits I make from New York back to spend in this city, okay? I couldn't move there and leave the city to
And
continue
that's
to
your
grow.
choice to do so.
But the point is, if you have a property that you think is special, it's up to you. The bank, if they're gonna borrow the money, the bank will do the appraisal, not the city of Sunbury telling me what it's worth. I mean, like most of my properties, McClay Wolverton House, they can't find a comp for an appraisal because it's 12,000 square feet, walnut. The state representative and congressman live there. What are you gonna compare that to in Sunbury? It's a one of a kind. They had to go outside the radius to do a comp.
And if
even
you don't
for
want to pay a
insurance.
fee, then apply for a waiver.
It's okay. I just think it's. I just-
extremely easy, apply for a waiver.
Apply for a waiver, but I think it's a lot of time and energy for.
Come in, see the code officers, say hi to the mayor, because I'm here like 30 to 40 hours a week. Sign up with the application so we have all of your emergency contact information regarding the property, because God forbid if something was to happen, we now know who to contact.
Can I say something?
Yes, sir.
My name is John Campbell. I own a Market Street property, 22,000 square feet. And I own 2 rentals. If my Market Street property would fold up today, I would be paying taxes and insurance of $15,000 a year. That's why we have to have support. We do whatever we can to keep the doors open, whatever we can. I don't want a bunch of riffraff in there, but, and we get beat all the time, especially rentals. Mike knows, we go ahead and we get someone who's a very bad tenant. I gotta right away go ahead and file through the magistrate, cost me $350. Then I go ahead and as soon as he gets that paper, he does not have to pay at all. So 6 weeks later, we go to court. I won every single court case ever. They tried to collect the money. I gotta pay another $600 because he's doing the thing to have the constable come and give him the paper. That's just reality. I'm with Mark. I think we need to get support here. I never would want a sign out in front of my building that say I'm in arrears or I have a problem. I love to stick a for sale sign on my door and you guys can see it and then you know that I'm trying. I have no problem
And
with
that's all
that.
this is, sir. Mr.
Or
Mr.
upper
Campbell,
rent, upper
it's
rent
a
sign.
sign with your contact information, because if somebody's interested in your property, they can contact us.
Does it say for rent?
Yes.
Or
It would be
does it
for
say where,
sale.
I'm sorry, I did not read it.
It's a for sale, for lease, for rent sign. It would have the emergency contact information.
Which would be us.
Yes, or whoever's in charge of the property. And there's no sign that says this property is empty for any specific reason. It just says it's for rent, for sale, for lease. Then it has emergency contact information.
It's just very, very hard to make a business go in Sunbury unless you're Burger King or someone like that. It's very hard to try to make it go. I just want to let you know, I support all the business owners in here. You know, maybe that is, and also this 1.5 stall per tenant. These guys, I sold a tanning bed to a salon's place across the street, and he said, the only thing I can do with this now is put the tanning bed upstairs. I cannot rent it to anybody, so I got a vacant second floor. Now, if you got the grandfather law in there, yeah, you're all right. But not if you're buying a building and you're trying to say, I got rentals upstairs and I have a storefront. If it's vacant, you're messed up.
John, is that Market Street? That's way.
There is no 1.5 feet or.
But other places in town?
Well, in the residential area, but Michael, you can go.
Central business is waived for all business operations, except for employee parking. You do have to provide some parking for employees, and that's based off of the ordinances. I don't know if you all.
But again, how do you do that? How do you pay for employees? I don't have the 5th Street parking anymore.
Well,
you know?
there's a part of the ordinance that says here, if you're within 300 feet of a municipal parking lot, you're exempt.
Yeah, I'm not within 300 feet of anything. I'm just hurt, just what I'm saying when it comes
Mr. Campbell, I don't know what to
down.
say.
I understand what you're saying. All right, thank you.
One thing I have a problem with the sign, to be honest with you. All the ways to advertise a property, man, on the internet and this and that, our webpage. I just don't, I think the signs are junky.
It's a professionally created sign. So I understand your point, but at the same time, if I'm an investor, I'm driving through the city, I see a building I like, I don't know if it's empty or for sale unless there's a sign. If I see a sign, I'm gonna go onto that sign
But if you're
website.
looking to invest in somebody goes webpage or out, you have a list of Bowen that's out there, I think the signs actually, other than looking junky, okay, if you drive down, you see a sign here, you think, my goodness, that's an empty, that's an empty, that's an empty.
We could do what Shamokin's doing, put in big giant red X's on all the buildings.
I do agree. You can still do this ordinance without requiring a sign. You can basically just say you still have to register for your.
Yeah, but the purpose of the contact information is.
You're still gonna do all of that.
Yeah, but it has to be on the sign.
It'll be online.
Okay, so it's a weekend, something happens to the property, who do you call? The signage is so everyone knows who to contact for the property.
But the sign wouldn't have the number of the person that owns the property, that would have the number of the realtor.
Whoever's in control of the property.
Realtor, well, he's not going to answer the phone on Sunday afternoon.
Let's do it, leave a voice.
That part's confusing. I thought it was just a realtor sign, you had to have.
Contact information for whoever's in charge of the property.
My name's John Simeon, I own 3 rentals. I just have one question. What gives you the right to tell us what to do with a property? What if I want to fix it and I don't want to rent it?
And you can sign up for a waiver and there's
Why do
no
I have to
fees,
do more
there's no
paperwork? I
inspection.
don't want to do more paperwork. I already come and register all my tenants, I come and deal with you all the time. I take care of the properties. And then let's go on to, the same value, you just compared to Shamokin. Well, I get the same amount of rent in Shamokin for half the value, and they're all shitholes. Everything around here is shit. You guys are not doing your job. You're not taking care of the city, you're not improving our appearance, you're not doing anything. You sit up here and try and penalize us for trying to take care of things. I have a tenant goes in, trashes my place to the tune of $20,000 worth of damage. It's civil, so I can't collect once I do win, and now you're gonna penalize me because it's gonna take me more than a year to fix it.
You're not being penalized, there's no fees. You can
I
get
don't want
away-
to deal with your stupid variances, I don't want to come and do it.
There's no variance, it's a waiver.
Your paperwork's a pain in the ass, just like the off-street parking. You want to bring people in, but then you penalize us $1,500 to get a variance for off-street parking.
That's not my department, so that would be Councilman Reichman.
But the point is, you guys keep hammering us. We keep fixing the properties. You want to go after people that don't take care of it, that's great. Nobody here is going to complain about you going after people that don't cut their grass, houses look like shit, do that kind of stuff. But the code office knows almost every player in the area, and they do make a phone call, and they know who's bad. I got in trouble for my door being open. You saw my door open, and I got a call and said, you can't have a vacant door open. It blew open in a storm. So I mean, if you guys are catching a door that's open, you're doing your job. And I'm okay with that. It was open, I'll go fix it. No
I
problem.
thought somebody broke in, John.
I don't know, and it's okay. You know, Mike called, said, hey, I'm like, no problem, it shouldn't be open. But you know the property. Steve did so much damage down there, you know, and I just think that you keep putting more and more on us, and it's not fair.
Thank you for your comment.
Start on mine.
Pepper Beth, 271 Golden Street. I want to thank each and every one of you council members today because I see you're all putting your mind on it, and I appreciate that. And I think you're opening your minds up to trying to fix what's broken in this town. So I want to thank you for doing that, first of all. I am a landlord. We own 48 rentals between Stones Grove and Sunbury. I think it's a phenomenal idea to hold everybody accountable for the properties. The people that are gonna have the biggest problem are gonna be the ones who aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing. The people who are here complaining aren't understanding what the ordinance is for. So I just wanna tell you, please continue pushing for this to go through, because I live right next door to a beautiful home where the grass has been mowed once in 6 months, all summer long, by the realtor who's neglected to mow it since the gentleman passed away. And there was nothing I could do about it before because it was the realtor and it wasn't a homeowner. Now something can be done. And I'm tired of seeing the same building down on Spruce and Second look so dilapidated and disgusting with no sidewalks, broken windows. You can see the foundation, the whole thing looks like it's about to fall over. And if I have to come in and sign a few papers, then so be it, because then it helps get rid of that crap in our town. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments tonight?
My name's John Shipman, I live on Washington Avenue in Sunbury. I also own property on 3rd Street in Sunbury, and I recently bought the property immediately next to mine for the sole purpose of protecting what I already have. I may never rent it. I would only rent that if I could find the right tenant. I bought it because I don't want 3 or 4 junk cars parked in my lot where the police won't go and do anything about it. Now I'm gonna have to register every year.
There'll be no fees for you.
I'm not talking about the fees. I'm gonna register every year?
Yes, sir.
Why?
For the safety of the city and your property.
Really? The property looks better now, unoccupied, than it did when the gentleman who lived there, full-time lived there.
Why should, give me your opinion, why should we treat someone differently
Why
if they
should
have an
we-
empty building versus someone else that has an empty building?
Why should it have to be done every year? If nothing changes, if I'm the owner this year,
A lot of
and
information
I'm the
can change,
owner,
but we don't know that, sir.
and I'm the owner next year, and I'm the owner 10 years from now, why do I have to register every year? I understand if it changes, why do I have to register every year?
To keep updated with the information for the property. My phone number's changed a couple times, my contact information's changed a couple times.
Well, mine hasn't.
We don't know that. This is to treat everyone equally, we are all equals in this.
Because you move around doesn't mean that the rest
I'm not
of them-
moving around, sir, it's just my phone number.
What he's saying, if nothing changes, why should it?
Why should I have to, yeah, if
Because
nothing
everybody
changes.
is to be held accountable the exact
So I
same.
guess how would we find out then if something does change? I guess that's, because I get your point.
Just the regulation can say, if there are changes, they have to be,
So you're required to
Yeah.
you're required to bring in your changes in X amount of days once you change.
you know, somebody has a lot of properties, but nothing changes, why should they have to come every year and register something? If there's a change, that's a different story. But if it doesn't change,
It's pretty much the same as it would be or is with our rental properties. Okay, we got people that had the same tenants for 15, 20 years. What we've done in the last 3 years is if they have the same tenants, they gotta come in with the paper and just put same as last year. Okay, I mean, that's what we do. But And I see the same situation happening. People that have religiously kept tenants over and over and over are the ones that come in every time with what needs to be done. But we have tenants and we have landlords that we constantly find out people that are shown living in this apartment isn't there. So then we gotta police that, we gotta go out, we gotta do this, and I'm gonna do the same thing with this ordinance. We're gonna have to go out and find out, and you won't find out until you have an incident or something come up that says, are you so-and-so? No, I'm not so-and-so. How long have you lived here? I've been here 90 days. Then we go to the landlord and say, why haven't you given us an updated? Right, and that's what's gonna
Well,
have
that's
to
the
happen.
only way to
That's
protect
the
that
way-
then is to make someone register every year.
Well, but we still do that every year. They have to come in with tenant forms every
And
year.
say same as last year or whatever.
Or give us a list, but we still have changes. They'll come in, we've had people come in and give us stuff or say that stuff, and we found out that there's different people living there, and then you gotta go police it. I don't think we're strict enough on that.
So that would basically just have the same problem with this ordinance.
Yes, it's gonna have to be police on
There'll be things that we
on
probably
a
could
case,
solve with this and cause headaches for some.
on a case-by-case basis, exactly. And we
As
only
far,
find
as
out.
far as the property on Chestnut, down on Second Street, that's been an eyesore before I was on council. And I was on council right after Columbus, you know. So, you know, that's not, this isn't gonna fix that problem. This lady's sadly mistaken if she thinks this ordinance is gonna fix that problem. And we have other, and I agree, there are properties that need to be addressed. I don't think this is.
But, and Deb, on the day after, the last meeting, we had our third-party person go down, and structurally, that building is sound.
What's with the crack that goes right
That's
through
was
the
two
summer?
buildings, but,
Oh,
but structurally, it's sound. He went down and through that thing. Yes.
Connie Brader, we have a business and we have a home. I think the mayor's taking this all way too personal. And these comments, you know, when people, I agree with Mr. Walker and Mr. Shipman. I think when people are trying to express themselves, he quickly jumps in, doesn't let people really express. Most of you sit there. We realize that people are paying their taxes and are paying insurances. And if they have a vacant property, they're paying very high insurance on that property. So, you know that.
Yeah, or it's not true at all.
Or not insured at all.
Yeah.
Most people do insure if they value the property. I think that people need to be heard as a community. I think things need to be thought about, and I don't think you should take it personally. I don't think anybody's trying to attack you or what you've proposed. It's not a personal issue. This is not personal. This is a community issue that people want to be heard and represented. And if they have properties, they're concerned about their properties, and just like Mr. Shipman said, you have to be careful who's next to you, and if you buy a property next to you, you don't want anybody telling you anything else about it, you're taking care of it because you care about your own property. And this regulation is just more regulations, and I think people need to be heard.
Thank you for your comment. Just to clarify, I'm not taking this personal. There's been a lot of thought being put into this.
Say something, you're jumping.
It's because I'm just saying the same things over and
But
over
let them
again.
marinate, let it marinate. It doesn't have to be personal.
And I did ask myself this too. I'm a property owner. If I move out of my house in 90 days, I have to register my property and I can apply for a waiver. No fees. Takes you 15 minutes. Come in, fill out an application. Everybody, the city has your contact information. My phone number would be on the front of my house with my contact information. And then I'd be out of the area. If something happens to my house, everyone knows who to call. Please go ahead.
Hi, Bob Snyder, former city councilman, in charge of the code office for 4 years. I like the spirit of the law, I like the spirit of what you're trying to do, I'm all for cleaning up the city. My question to you as a council is, if you have this tool in your box, another tool, which could be a great tool, we have one code officer, basically, 1.5. We're totally understaffed in there. We've been understaffed, we're currently understaffed. Who is actually going to enforce this? Who's going to go out and check this? How are you going to do it? I know from working with Mike, they work diligently every day. And they're called out in the middle of the night, they're called out in all hours. They're always dealing with something. There is no humanly way possible for this gentleman and the staff that's in there right now, and your office support staff, to possibly do any type of jurisdiction with this. You do not have the ability to enforce this. It's a great feel-good legislation, and maybe, if it could be enforced, it's like putting up a speed limit sign, but everybody in town knows there's no cop. It's meaningless. You've got to have in your tool belt the people, the manpower, to go enforce this. Nothing will change in this city. John Shipman is right. This ordinance will not fix up that property at the other end of town. It simply won't. So, okay, if I gotta come in every year, okay, no big deal. But I'm saying to you, you need to find a way to get the manpower in there to actually make this work. Or otherwise, we spent a whole meeting here talking about what? Nothing. Because nothing will be changed, nothing will be done. We'll have a piece of paper, but who's gonna go enforce it? How are you gonna get this done? So my challenge to this council is take this opportunity and figure out how we're gonna get the money to beef up the code office, give them the training they need, give them the tools they need, and give them the manpower they need. Then maybe this will change. But this legislation in and of itself won't do a doggone thing. You need the people to enforce it and make the city better, and that's only going to be done by having the right qualified people in the job, and we don't have enough of them. My hat's off to these guys. I know what they go through. I was with them for 4 years, and it's a tough job. It's a crummy job in a lot of ways. You see a lot of bad things. So we have good people working on it. We don't have enough good people working on it. Mr. Reichner can only do so much. Mr. Rhodes can only do so much. Their plate is already full. So council, tell me, tell the citizens what you're going to do to actually make this work. Not, the legislation's fine. There's innuendos in there. I don't see some of it, but it's okay. I'd rather have a little more than a little less. But again, it doesn't happen if there's nobody there to enforce it, and I don't think we have that ability right now.
And it doesn't happen at all if we don't even have the stepping stone.
That's fine. That's the first step, but you really have to understand that this is just feel-good legislation at this point when you don't have the manpower to do it. It's no different than our police force being understaffed. We know we have a problem, you're working on it. I admire that. I'm asking you to do that, but please don't throw the code office once again under the bus by not giving them the people to do this. That's what we need to make this work.
I wasn't going to say much because I don't have much information on it, but I was reached out by a company. They said they read the article in the paper. They helped it's a company out of state, but they've helped local communities in Pennsylvania regarding this exact ordinance. They said they read the proposed ordinance that's available on our city's website, and they said their company believes they can help us with software and enforcing the program.
Great.
To lessen the hardship on the city. But I do have a meeting set up with them to talk about what they have to offer.
That's what I would ask you to do, due diligence in that area. Okay?
I'm going to speak to just the actual specifics of the ordinance. Just like if it were to get passed, I want to make sure that it's so that the ordinance is going to be passed. I think there's definitely a couple conflicts in it and a couple concerns I got that I want to bring up. One is that the market price concern, and that is proving market value is a very challenging thing, and I just worry about the legal quagmires the city could get into with that. Who proves it? Appraisals are expensive, etc. And also getting involved with like how much people are selling rental units for, like I said, to be a legal quagmire. I also, as far as initiating a new ordinance, there are a lot of vacant properties in this city between commercial and private and everything. If we plan to register them all within 60 days of the day that you say this is passed, I think that is asking for a lot of trouble. My recommendation would be to start for the beginning of next year, so it gives people time to learn it, understand it, and then slowly get things on board, perhaps even before that date, and be ready and prepared for it when it happens. Give the code office a little bit of breathing room too. There's some confusion between definitions. Occupied, the definition of occupied says if an area is if any area is rented in the building, it's occupied. While the vacant definition says if there is a substantial usable portion is vacant, then it falls under vacant. So that's
confusing, and I just would think that that needs to be addressed. And I guess it really affects how I feel about this ordinance, how that's actually defined specifically. The other question I have that I'm sure affects Mr. Wolberg and myself as a business person is that if you're using a property for storage, I have a rental company, we have a lot of area, building area that we use for storage for our business. So, is that considered vacant or not? And that's an extremely important question to answer.
Under
That's an extenuating circumstance.
it would be considered vacant and unoccupied property, but you can come in and apply for a waiver of all the fees and inspection.
Basically, say, this is what I'm doing with the property, this is why I believe it doesn't fall under.
So if I'm saying like I'm occupying it as storage.
That's what you would then say. what
If
I'm
you
doing,
would
and this is
come
why I'm not
and-
trying to run it.
If the code office is giving the waivers or variances, and you said you approved that you were using other storage, you get a variance, you get a waiver.
Variance is the wrong word, a waiver.
Waiver.
Yeah, variances cost money, waivers don't.
The 60-day thing concerns me. I think I look at this as trying to solve the problem of long-term vacancy issues where you're having, somebody could break in, or animals, or other safety issues. Like there's one property on Market Street we all know had safety hazards.
And just to clarify real quick, like if I moved out of my house, it starts the countdown for day one.
Right.
But then I have within 90 days to come and register it. It's not 60, it's within 90 days. Because 60 days declares it empty and unused, and then you have 30 days to come in and register it. So you technically have 90 days of it being empty before you come and register it.
Right. But even so, I mean,
In some communities, it's after 10 days you come and register it.
What's your opinion?
my opinion is that I think that that's way too short. Because whenever you're looking at a unit becoming vacant, okay, so it becomes vacant, and then you have to do something with the unit to try and make it advantageous for someone to want to rent it. And then also too, whenever you begin, especially commercial rental, if you have a potential person on the phone, it is going to take 2 months. From that day that they're on the phone and they're interested and they rent it, it's going to take at least 2 months. So I think that 60 days should be out to 6 months, just so that you're eliminating, honestly, a whole lot of paperwork that might be completely unnecessary. I just think that is really short window. I mean, whenever we're talking about, in 6 months, what's going to have an ability to make it completely unsafe? Nothing except high grass. I mean, high grass is probably the only thing you're going to have in the space without your time. I'm just thinking that should be like the annual registration fee that says 30 days, another section reads 60 days. Which I thought was confusing, so, just if you could look at that and see.
What was that?
There's under the annual registration section, which is towards the end, it says you have 30 days to register it after it becomes vacant, where on
Yeah, you have within 30 days after it becomes vacant, and the definition of vacant is 60 days unoccupied, so that makes it 90 days.
but the annual registration fee actually looks like it refers back to initial vacancy date, and it only says 30 days. You can kind of reread it as if you had anything else.
Because the definition of vacancy is 60 days unoccupied.
Yep, I'm saying, that's what I'm saying, just reread that, maybe just reread that annual registration section. Like I said, I think that could potentially be helpful, although again, it is more of a burden on everybody, so if there's ways we can reduce the burden overall, and also too, if we can get to working towards how we can be more progressively allow reutilization properties. What you're dealing with is a lot of properties that are functionally obsolete. So you've got second and third floors that were used for housing, and now the current ordinances don't allow for those to be used for housing, or it's an extremely high barrier to use those for apartments. So what do we do with those vacant spaces? And that's kind of a question I asked last year. What do we do with those? We still have that 900 square foot minimum. We still have the $1,000 permit fee for a new rental. Help for marketing would be wonderful. Other potential parking options, image building for the city, anything like that. Thumbs up. Thank you.
Any other comments?
Oh, okay, I thought it was. Hi, I'm Tammy Crimson. I'm the owner of Little Addie's Cafe. And as a potential business owner that wants to invest 30 years worth into a building, to expand my business. My main concern is I've looked at many, many buildings in Sunbury, and I do agree something has to be done. The value that they're asking for these buildings with the conditions that they're in is absurd. I am now looking at a building that has huge potential, and then I also look at the other aspect of, okay, taxes at this rate with it being vacant are still absurd but affordable. But now with this ordinance, you're asking to, yes, I get the whole sign the waiver thing. I already, as a business owner, have a lot of things I have to do, especially coming in and filling out business occupancy fees and all this other stuff. So my thing is, if I miss that deadline, and just like Bob said, who do we have to enforce that? Who's gonna come and say, hey, Mr. Deadline, here's your fine, thanks for doing business in Sunbury. And then my also other aspect is, we look at all these vacant buildings, and then now we are, as a small business owner, trying to scrounge what we have together to get it fixed up, to get it operating. And then knowing we have such a small window to be able to get that done, without having to file for a waiver every year, so to speak. And once we do get it up and operating, now it's like Megan said, if someone moves out, we have 90 days to come and let you know it's vacant. Well, I agree with her, it's a short term, because now if I get that filled within 6 months, do I have to come back and let you guys know that it's filled? Or do you have someone come?
Yes, you'd have to inform us of any changes to the property status.
Okay, whether it's vacant, and then now I rented it, and now I have to come back again.
Are we talking as a business rental or as a residential rental?
It would be both. So it would be like the upstairs as a rental, and then commercial down.
I'm anticipating this would be all done the same way. If you would get an original notice every year, all right? And you got a time frame to get that in. If it's not in on a certain time frame, then you'll get an official, say, a violation. And then you would get fined $25. What is it residential? $25, Mike? If the applications aren't back, if the fees aren't back in time, it's $25 fee. If it's a late fee, it's 10, then 25, okay.
Yeah, it's
And
10,
it's gonna probably
25,
work on
then
the
it's
same
just a
principle.
citation, yeah.
It's not, my experience with government, although you want to be proactive doing things, you got to be reactive. Because you got to wait for something to happen before you can act for it. I mean, you can take measures to help prevent it, but every one of those measures is on an individual basis, has to be treated differently. And you have to notify the person if the expiration of the date, you will get a written notice as that you need to come in and re-register or whatever. That is how our department would handle it.
Okay, and so again, as Bob said, will there be enough manpower to do that?
It would be done as we could, that would be done, there would be a certain date that has to be done by every year, because when those are done. But as far as enforcing things, it would be on the list as everything else. We've done, since April of 2017, we handled over 3,000, I don't want to say calls, but 3,000 instances. And that's not counting the inspections that he's done. That's for 3 part-time workers.
Okay, so I guess the loophole to this ordinance is what I'm trying to say. So what you're saying is if, as long as a commercial place that sits vacant, if we are maintaining it, whether cutting the grass, shoveling snow, we come in once a year, fill out a waiver every year, how long do we have? Because as long as we're maintaining it, we have forever, right?
My understanding, the waiver is a one-time thing, so it has to be every year.
We took that out the last
taken out.
meeting. We agreed to take that out the last meeting.
The waiver's a one-time thing.
Yeah, it was before, now it's just a waiver.
Yeah, but it's a one-time thing. It's not
No,
one-time.
so
a
every year I can come in
Oh,
and
it's
fill
once
out.
a year,
Yeah,
but it's not a one-time waiver. You can come back the next year.
yeah, what I'm saying, no, you don't have, to. It don't have to, you get the waiver, you got it.
No, every year.
You have to do it every year.
Okay.
So, and
And
again,
again,
it
this
seems
is
like a
good.
lot of paperwork for someone to come in every year and still not sell that vacant property
That part
or.
of it's no different than a residential one.
And I understand your concern, but a lot of our property owners don't even live in the state of Pennsylvania.
Okay,
And this is to treat everyone completely equal. No one person is better or worse than each other. This is all property owners are treated equally. If there's something with your property, if you're working on your property, you get a waiver. You might have to come in and spend 15 minutes with the officer, apply, just put your information, so we can have all the contact information. There's a file for all of our empty buildings, so we can keep track. If something goes wrong, we know, hey, there's an insurance policy on this property. You know who to call and contact. This isn't to penalize you because you want to invest into our city.
But once again, why can't we have that done online? It's an object.
well, that was gonna be my next
Well,
question.
we
I'm
could,
all
we just
about
have to get the software
technology,
and
we could
everything
do it
else.
online.
I mean, coming in the office.
But we
that's-
can't do anything if we don't have an ordinance.
well, Once again, my daughter, wife was in, they said it was delicious.
Thank you. Thank you.
Can I ask one more question? Are you in line? Go ahead.
No, please, sir.
Is my understanding that when this is filled out, there's gonna be some kind of a placard or something put on the building with the owner's name and phone number on it?
Contact information, yes.
So that all the thieves can drive down and find out which
All
are
the
the
thieves already
vacant
know
buildings?
which properties are
All,
empty.
all which buildings are vacant in the whole town? All right, just checking.
And what did you just say, sir?
I said all the thieves already know which properties are empty, sir. They pay attention.
Hi guys, Brad Nemick, 1337 Reynolds. We have residential, we have commercial. There are a couple definitions in there Megan already mentioned. One of those, and in the newspaper I saw that you quoted that in a multifamily building, if you have a vacant unit or 2 vacant units, unless the whole building's vacant, it doesn't count. Now, if you read the ordinance, it doesn't read like that. So I mean, that should just be checked, and I mean, if that's the intent, that should be in the ordinance and not the other way. Now, I don't know, investing in real estate, like investors, you know, Sunbury's already bottom of the barrel in condition in a lot of places that are for sale. But, you know, you get more flies with honey than vinegar, and this is just more vinegar, more red tape, ordinances, everything. It's just, nobody likes that. And I understand the overall intent is to make things better and to fill units. But if I'm gonna be penalized in a commercial unit, $400 for the year, you're gonna see some amazing businesses in my units that are hours by appointment, that are the cheapest rents that are bottom out the market. It's not gonna be good for me, but if I can't rent it, you know, I'll just take anybody, and I don't wanna do that. I wanna wait for the right person, like Mark Wahlberg said. I mean, the commercial rentals are difficult in Sunbury. I mean, the other thing too is maintenance-wise. Are we talking interior? You never know who you're gonna get as a tenant. You don't know if you're gonna get, you know, an attorney's office or a Chinese restaurant. So you don't know build-out-wise what you really need inside. You know, exterior-wise, I understand you want it to look good. But at what point, you know, does this take it? And then you say that everybody is treated the same unless you owe taxes, or you're religious, or you're government. And those people are treated differently. Per the ordinance, right?
I don't know a single ordinance that holds government liable for an empty building.
Okay. All right. So
So again, in the fees, you can apply for a waiver of the fees. You wouldn't have to pay the $400.
Right. It just seems awful high, $400 for a vacant.
If you don't get a waiver.
If you don't get a waiver, and you guys decide that the code officer.
There's communities out there that have the fees up to $1,000.
Yeah. I mean, it's just one more reason not to purchase.
Well, that's one more reason to promote substantial effort on the property owner's part to utilize the property.
You can advertise, I mean, it takes forever to get, look at the 300 block of Market Street. I counted 13 vacancies. 2 of those are mine, to be fair. But everybody else are for sale signs, and you can ask, I've had mine listed with Amy Buhner for almost a year now. No bites. And I mean, I'm under 100,000 on my listing, and I tell Amy, hey, negotiate. But she says, I said, Amy, can I lower the price? Will that help? And she says, no, Brad, no one's looking. That's the feedback I get from my realtor. So how do we get people to look in Sunbury, in general? Where's the honey? We need honey, less vinegar. Sounds good. All right. Thanks for your consideration.
Thanks, Brad. Any other comments?
I have taken much more time, I did have 3 quick questions. Number one, my understanding that residential and commercial are gonna be handled the same way then?
Yes.
Is this the price is different, 200 versus 400? Second, you don't have to waive, right, yeah, if you don't have to waive, I get that. If you are actively remodeling a property, bought one to need it up, and you have a permit for it, would that allow you not to have to pay the vacancy fee?
Yes.
Okay,
That's in
so
the waiver section.
that's in the waiver section, I actually have it. And the third thing is, I do have, I like, the fact that, I think that what you said about treating everybody fairly or equally. So I think this is come upon by all the out-of-town investors who don't take care of the property, especially banks and things like that. So therefore, I believe that you're actually treating us unfairly because we're the ones here in town that you can actually get to. And I get it, I'm a realtor, I know that when we've had listings, 5th and Reagan Street, sat there and the tree fell on the wires, it sat there for how long? And I understand that it's very difficult to find or take care of these properties outside of, the area right here. But then we're getting penalized because we're here locally. You can say that you're trying to take care of everybody equally, but you really wouldn't need this ordinance if it weren't for these out-of-towners that weren't paying for it and the banks and stuff that weren't, taking care of the properties.
And the trouble becomes how you hold them accountable without it.
Fair? I don't have an answer, I'm just saying, in the answer to being fair, it really does seem to me that we're getting penalized because you can't do that. Now, you're making it fair.
The regular person gets penalized because some people don't do things all the time.
All day long, I just want to make that statement, I just want to verify. So as an investor, if I bought a property that I'm gonna fix up, as long as I have a permit going on, even if it takes me a year, that's an automatic waiver. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
I'm Scott Miller. I own a bunch of rentals here in Sunbury, and I take very much pride in my properties. I put a lot of money in my properties. And I'm not quite sure what you're doing here with all this. I think you're wasting your time on someone. All the rentals are registered now. Why are you gonna create more work on regular registered rentals? All my rentals, I can guarantee you, get down there to Linda, my properties that are vacant are in there. All she's gotta do is pull that address out, this property is vacant, Scott Miller, flip it over, there is some.
I think
Why are we pissing around with this?
I think what
Regular homeowners maybe.
I think what this is commercial rentals. You've got residential rentals.
Well, I'm gonna start and have to do that waiver every year. How many hours did anybody here, and the accountant's gone, did anybody figure out how many vacant properties are in this town? How many's in this town?
There's no actual list.
There's no actual list.
There's no actual.
How much money do you think you're gonna bring in off of these?
This is not to generate revenue, sir.
Okay, now, city's in debt to begin with, correct?
The fees are to.
Hey, wait, the city is in debt now.
No, she's not dead.
Why are we getting a loan?
We're talking about looking into the possibility.
Why are we getting a loan?
That would put us.
We have, did Mr. Troop not say that he has enough money this week to pay, make payroll?
$12,000.
Thank you. Now, why are we gonna create something that you have no idea how much income this is gonna generate? How many man hours do you just have in it for the code office alone with the rentals? How many man hours are you gonna have in vacant properties now?
I have no idea.
Okay, so now we're going to create this system
And nobody has any idea how much money this is gonna generate, how much money we're gonna pay out. What in the world are you guys trying to do up here? Seriously.
I guess the only thing with this though is any money that we're doing, you know is coming back.
So what if you get 20,000 in, and you end up spending $50,000 a year to maintain this system?
So we're,
He's talking about software, everything
okay, so
else.
you're talking if we go that route. I see.
Okay, even manpower. You're gonna have to hire another secretary, because Linda cannot do it all. And, I forget who else you have back there part-time.
You mean as far as the clerks go, Robin?
Robin. Those two girls are not gonna be able to take care of all this paperwork.
Sir, this is no different than coming in for your construction permit. You apply for the application, you pay your fees, and then the guys come out and do the inspection.
I'm asking.
If you don't want to pay the fees, you can apply for the waiver.
Well, I'm gonna apply for a waiver, but then you imagine how much paper, if everybody applies for a waiver, how much money is coming in off of this? Mr. Rittner? There is
For
none.
waiver.
How many more thousands of dollars are you gonna take to file all these? A system to do all this?
Well, we have the software in place. That's not gonna be expensive.
So what, how many more hours is Eric gonna
I have
take
no
to take care
idea.
of take care of the software?
I have no idea.
What if there's a glitch and you need to update your software?
I don't think, we're not,
I don't think you guys thought this over very well. I mean, I understand you need a system to take care of vacant properties. There is no ifs, ands, buts about it. But there is a lot of other things in this town, even regular homeowners, which I know the code, if they're peeling paint and everything else, regular homeowners, they get away with that. And Mike and Joe and everybody, they don't have enough time to do that. I drive around, I can see tires off a freaking thing. What do you think the CDC or whatever is gonna take care of? They have a fit about tires being off because of the West Nile virus. There's tires laying around. They don't have enough time to take care of that. I think you guys really need to sit down and think this over and go a different route or something else, because your idea is terrible. I'm gonna tell you right now.
Thank you for your comment.
You're welcome.
Any other comments
I
tonight?
got one quick thing. We're talking about businesses that are leaving town and we're not getting business coming into town. I don't know if you guys have ever thought of this. A seller who wants to sell his house for $100,000 or March Street. This is March Street property owner. I'm talking about commercial. Offer him an opportunity to tell the tenant looking for a house, you're gonna get 1 year's free taxes. That's gonna help for us to sell the place. People are gonna start thinking about this. Just a thought.
The problem with that is you have to get the school district and the county to go along with it. The city only controls what they charge for taxes. They have no control over the county or the school district.
Well, I can understand that, so then it'd just be city taxes.
Right.
It's just an incentive.
I have a question. My name is Nathan Savage, and this may be a lack of knowledge on my own part, but who staffs the redevelopment authority?
Committees. It's its own solicitor and it's a board.
the redevelopment authority is just a committee.
Okay, so
And we have
I
a
guess
solicitor.
okay.
All the legwork on the redevelopment authority is done by my office.
Okay, so I guess what I'm getting at is the legal jargon already there for the redevelopment authority to do this type of thing, but that's my question.
I spoke with a member of the redevelopment authority. They could use this to help get inside the buildings, to see the condition of the property, as well as maintaining like records of the condition. Redevelopment authority, they can't do anything until the properties meet a certain level regarding the blight situation.
Okay.
So by the same token, they couldn't get in the office when they're building also.
Yes.
Well, even without this.
Code can't just come into my property.
That's residential.
But if it was empty and vacant, this would allow them to do commercial.
But still has the right.
Vacant property, it's residential.
Only in case of emergency.
Only emergency, right?
Yeah, only in case of emergency.
Inspection.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Rice, we have to go 24-hour notice before we can go into a property unless it's a case of emergency for fire department, police department, or then find a legitimate
So you can
cause.
go in.
If there's a state of emergency, like fire department or police department or something finds, yeah, we can remain.
You could also
But
get
otherwise, we have to give notification.
You can also get an administrative warrant.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And go in with that.
Yes,
So,
yes, you're right,
yeah.
Joe. Yes, Joe, you're right. We can get an administrative warrant.
Well, even with this though, you still give notification, you just don't kick the door in.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
Any other comments?
Just one, we know that burden it's gonna put on the landlords and everything now, extras, work and papers and money, but how is this gonna solve the problem of the vacant buildings that have been vacant for years and in such bad repair? Is this gonna do anything? Are you gonna be able to tear them down or do anything with them?
The municipalities that I've spoke to, man, they said at first there's a lot of backlash with property owners because no one really understood it. It's something brand new for their communities. After the first couple of years, they saw an increase with the properties. This ordinance alone isn't going to help or save us regarding all of our empty buildings, but it's going to promote substantial efforts on the property owners themselves to actually utilize the property or properly market the property to get investors into our city.
But what gives you the right to tell us what to do with our properties? That's the question right there. I have a car, it's brown. Are you gonna tell me now that we can't have brown cars anymore?
No.
Well, you can't tell me what to do. I bought it, we're in America. I bought it, I paid the cash, I pay the taxes, I keep it up, and don't violate any of your laws. What gives you the right to tell me what to do with it?
Empty
Dumpy brown
property.
car would sit next to my house and look like crap.
Call the
I
cops.
want somebody to do an ordinance, I'm
That's
sorry.
right. No, not ordinance.
If you wanna look the way you
Cops,
go to
code
that town,
office. Cops,
go
code
to the
office.
shack, put your brown car
Hey.
there.
Somebody answer my question. What gives you the right?
Empty properties, sir, are a nuisance to all communities.
No, they're not.
They jeopardize the property values of the surrounding properties that are being utilized. And it's just an eyesore. They promote illicit drug use, break-ins.
So every property listed by a realtor that happens to be vacant at the time is a nuisance and broke into by druggies.
I'd like to make a motion that we table this and do some more research. Second?
I don't think we're not voting on anything tonight anyways.
Just the amendments that everybody received.
I'll take that. Second table.
You're right.
Why don't we just have a public meeting?
That'd be easier than this.
That's what these are. They're coming to a public meeting and
This is a business meeting. If we're here to have a business.
Real quick thought, a lot of these major business owners, commercials and also residential, maybe 10 of them, put them as a committee to come up with this ordinance for everybody. Then you get it, you review it, you pick it apart, you say, you know what, I like this, but I don't quite like this. Bring it back to the committee of 10, and all of us get together and solve it. You're using some expertise is what you're using.
The annual police fire Halloween parade is October 18th. Please pre-register. Forms are available in my office. Next council meeting is October 8th, 6:15 p.m. Thank you.
I like it.